Hey guys, welcome to the FightFit Podcast. We have got Michelle Reeves, my dietitian and the nutritionist for many others, here with me today. How are you today?
Very well, and you?
Yeah, I'm good. I had my weigh-in yesterday and I'm feeling good.
So what did you end up getting to?
81.75.
And you started at?
89.
Well done.
So it's a really good 7 kilos as well in terms of like the way I've been feeling. I've definitely not been starving myself, which is the best part of things. Normally, if I want to lose weight, I'll try to starve myself.
I was just going to say, do you want to talk about that? Talk about because we've had many conversations about obviously what I suppose is people's norm, I think a lot of people either hesitate when they want to get into losing weight because they automatically assume that it's always about deprivation, restriction, which is usually why they say I'll start Monday so they can get rid of all the food that's in the house because they think it's going to be their last time that they're allowed to eat a biscuit while they're on a diet or so. And I think you probably started out possibly similar where you thought it was just going to be having to cut it out. In actual fact, we spent time kind of reversing it and building it and kept adding more food.
Yeah, well, I mean, before I started doing this, a good day for me would be eating very little, and then on the weekends I'd go out and I'd probably binge drink and eat a lot of crap, and then it was just it was like completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
and then since doing this, I've just sort of been able to eat more food, but just control what goes into the food, natural ingredients and all that sort of stuff. So I'd say it's been tough cutting out some of the more enjoyable things that I like to eat.
Highly palatable.
Yeah, exactly right. Ice cream, that I'm a sucker for the ice cream. But I'd say I'm not a massive soft drink drinker. I'd say it's more that beers would be one that would be I struggle with, and then having too many carbs and meats in my diet and not enough vegetables. The vegetables has been a game changer, no pun intended. We'll talk about that. Yeah. I'd say the vegetables has been a big one, and also the balance is another one. Finding how to have enough protein, enough fats, and enough carbs, because if you're too heavy with probably fats and carbs, like I was, then you're in trouble, I guess.
I think the definition of carbs is probably the thing that is most misunderstood, because a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I've cut carbs out of my diet, and I'll say, do you eat veggies? And they go, yeah. And I go, well, you're still eating carbs, right? So I think we have just got it so skewed in terms of carbs, and that's for those who actually will eat them, because everyone's so scared to eat a carb. It's the devil these days. And eating them before you go to bed. We spoke about that too. But I think if most people will actually start to understand, like the way I was taught, I'll just go back to say I'm not a dietitian, by the way, I'm a sports nutritionist, just because I have to make that clarity. Yep. But one of the things that I learned very early on from another program was defining them, and so kind of it's like what I teach you guys, primary foods, and say, right, these are all our sources of protein that we're going to pick from, and there's at least 6 or 7 different ones you choose from. These are all our low energy carbohydrates that we're picking from, so all our veggies, all our fruits, we just make the exception of, say, potato and banana, and we class them more as a higher energy carbohydrate. And things like grains and stuff like that, they're all your higher energy carbohydrates, simply because they've got less fiber attached to them. They're a lot easier broken down by the body. Sometimes more energy is attached to them. Like you could get, say, 100 grams of rice versus 100 grams of other veggies, and what you'll get out of them is completely different. And then, of course, obviously your good fats. And I think for most people, if they just keep it that simple, which is why I like to try and teach it that way, if you start off and keep it that simple, and then everything else is negotiable for the person, depending on, what their day looks like, what their activity level looks like. You've got some people who are pretty much sitting behind a desk 10 hours a day, in which case do they need loads of breads and pastas and stuff like that, where the energy that's in there, they're just not going to use that. So they're better off having lower energy or the veggies and veggie soups and fruits and yogurt and stuff like that instead, rather than demonizing carbohydrates, saying, oh my God, I can't eat a bit of bread, or I'm never allowed to have pasta again. You definitely can. And even when we spoke about you having ice cream, I said you can definitely have the ice cream. The difference is you're not sitting down eating half a litre of it at night time. And there's so many fantastic options with ice cream now that aren't loaded full of calories, and some are actually very good quality still.
I enjoyed my Halo Top on a Friday evening.
Yeah.
But the difference was that I wasn't indulging because it was there. It was something that I was planning on. Yes. And I'd plan it out, look forward to it all week. And then after training on Friday, when the week was over, I'd go and get myself a tub of that.
Yep.
Halo Top ice cream, 350 calories. And it was good. It felt like a treat, but I didn't feel guilty about it.
And I think that was something, this is a really important thing for people to understand too, which is what we spoke about, is not mindless eating. There's choosing something because you go, right, exactly that. That's your thing. At the end of the week, you're going to have that. So you're choosing, and it's in a controlled manner, versus what tends to happen is people go, what do I feel like? And there's that magic sentence. As soon as it's what I feel like, it's a bit of this and a bit of that. And all of a sudden they've just eaten half a litre plus everything else that's gone with it. And then they go, oh, well, I've done that, so now I may as well just keep going. Versus saying, okay, I'm actually still going to eat all my normal foods and have my ice cream and I'm good, and straight back to normal, just doing life the next day.
Yeah. There's I think it's important not to go to the shopping centre hungry.
Never go to the shopping centre hungry. You'll always be $100 extra out of pocket.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like kid in a playground when I go there hungry.
I've done it.
Sometimes I have to go straight after training. I have to really restrain myself. I'll end up leaving with a whole cooked chicken and all that.
We are marketed to in just about every sense everywhere we go. You go into a supermarket and they're set up to sell. That's why chocolates there's a reason that they're sitting at the front counter
on special
when you're standing in queue, and you stand there with one of your kids and they're like, mom, and you're like, oh, I just want to get out of here. And by that stage, it's like, as a parent, you'll go, oh, we'll just have it. Yes, because you're in this queue, it's packed, kids are running amok, you just want to get out of it, but it's there for a reason. So that we're sold to. So we and that's that mindless thing again. It's not necessarily that anybody actually wanted it, but it's there, and their brain lights up and goes, oh, well, we know that's a good thing. We know it tastes good. So I'll just have that. And again, you end up with all these unnecessary food and unnecessary calories in your day just because.
That is one thing that I have noticed, is that all the unnecessary foods and calories, they just add up so much.
Very quickly.
And when I'm counting out all my calories, if I can do it in a way that's, planned out every meal, I can really have a substantial amount of food, especially when I'm training and stuff, and I can feel great about it. But if I have this odd little thing here, odd little thing there, and I do that 3 or 4 times in a day, I'll be way over my calorie count.
Yep.
And even it's like, that's why I've really had to refrain from, because I've wanted to be at my calorie count every day while I've been on the camp, and I've had to really refrain from, doing little treats here and there, because that means that I'd have to take it away from another area, and then if I take it away from another area, then I perhaps won't be as balanced.
It's a good point, because again, it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I come across in people. I can get them to send me photos of everything they're doing, and I look at it and I go, that's perfect, but I know that there's more stuff. And then I'll go back and I'll have the conversation and go, especially as somebody who's got kids, because probably one of the worst habits you pick up as a parent, especially if you're brought up in the don't waste anything mentality. Kids have left a sandwich, there's a quarter of a sandwich, so you'll eat it because you don't want to throw it out. It might be a couple of biscuits. It might be, I don't know, just bits and pieces. But exactly that, you do that often enough, and all of a sudden, if you're somebody who, say, is running at a deficit of calories of maybe 1,500 for the week, the reality is in your snacking, you can pick up an extra 1,500 calories without even batting an eyelid. And we have this and I've spoken about it before, we have this funny little meter that goes, oh, it's a quarter of a sandwich, it's a half a biscuit, it's not a big deal, it doesn't really count. And yet it does. It all counts, every single bit of it, half a teaspoon of something. You know, somebody who likes to get the peanut butter. Peanut butter is a big one. People like to eat peanut butter out of the jar. So they get a teaspoon of peanut butter and go, oh, well, that doesn't really count. Well, it actually does, because it can have nearly 100 calories attached to it. Like, it's very, very easy. Chocolate is another one where people will go, oh, they've got all their normal stuff and planned out, and then they pick at a block of chocolate. But same thing, they might go, oh, well, I've only had 3 squares today, but 3 squares plus another 3 squares, and keep going. And again, you've still added a whole heap more calories that you hiding from yourself because you're not really owning them. So snacking is a big one. It's a big downfall for a lot of people. And
it's like, it can be a game counting calories sometimes.
Can be.
That's the way I kind of saw it. And then when I was having my I'd have my big kale slaw, full bag, and I'm talking, I'd fill up this bowl, like,
it's 400 grams, that
big bowl full of kale slaw, and then my chicken, and then sometimes I'd put cashew nuts and I put dried raspberries. One day I was like, oh, this is gonna just make my salad just 10 times fruit.
Yeah.
So I put it in, and then I went on my merry old way and put the dried raspberries into the calorie counter. There was so many calories. I was, God damn it.
I was just going to say, dried fruit, as soon as it's dried fruit, it's a hell of a lot higher.
Yeah.
You would have been better with fresh raspberries. You would have been fine. But yeah, freeze dried.
Yeah.
And they are pretty spectacular.
Oh. And with the cashews all throughout the salad. No wonder all these hipster cafes have dried cranberries in all of their salads, because they're magnificent.
Yeah, but you know, that's, I think, the we talk about people eating healthy, and this is where things have got so complicated in one respect these days, because they go out and you can think, I've got this bowl of oats and it's got this, it's got that, so good. And yeah, it is, it's healthy. But if you're trying to watch what you're eating, these things, some of these smoothie bowls are in excess of 700, 800, 900 calories in them. And again, people look and go, why can't I lose weight? It's like,
smoothie bowls, hey?
Yeah.
As in the acai bowls?
Yep. Because if they're done with things like, quite often they're mixed with dates, peanut butter, coconut, you put those 3 together and your calories are absolutely through the roof, just depending on obviously how much they put in there. Then they'll usually have muesli in there, then plus your other fruit and everything else that goes with it. So
they look healthy though.
They look amazing, but they are.
Look healthy.
So if you look from the perspective of healthy, absolutely. Awesome foods in there. If you looked at it when you were trying to control calories, that's a bit of a different story, because we don't, quite often people will look at something like that and they go, well, it's healthy, so I don't really have to worry about the calories that are in that. So it's more a perspective thing. So yes, 100%. Health perspective, not a problem. If you're looking at it from a calorie perspective and then wondering why you can't lose weight, but you're eating these things 3-4 times a week, plus all your other stuff, all of a sudden you might have to look at the calories and go, well, there's probably a little bit more in there than what you realise. So you've got to account for it somewhere. I think one of the things that I like about calorie counting, and it's not for everyone because I have a lot of people who I don't get them to calorie count. One of the good things that comes from calorie counting is being aware of how much energy is attached in certain foods like dried raspberries, and how easy it is to get tripped up. We all end up eating way more than what we need at the end of the day, and that's because we have so many foods that are just so calorie dense. So that's why we go back to primary foods, to keep it simple and say, right, this stuff you can eat, and you can eat a ton of it, lots of volume, lots of great food, and then everything else you be a little bit flexible with. And it's not about cutting it out altogether. It is about being aware, though.
What do you say about someone who says that they eat out of boredom a little bit more? Because I find that is something that I have struggled with in the past. Is, you know, if you're just at home and you're not doing anything, you're more likely to go to the fridge and eat something, and then an hour later you're like, oh, I'm hungry again.
Yeah. If you said to that same person who's bored, now go and eat a bowl of veggies, they'll go, no, I don't want to eat a bowl of veggies. Exactly. So you're not hungry, you are just bored. So sometimes I call it 10 o'clock itis. I always know when it's 10 o'clock at night because I literally would get up and I'm in the pantry and I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. But I do also know that if my day has been largely filled full of foods, like good nutrient dense foods, that I'm much less likely to do that. But I also will then have things like I'll use the jar of hot chocolates. So I always have something there that I know if that 10 o'clock comes and I'm a little bit picky, but I don't want to eat a bowl of veggies, so I know I'm not really hungry, then I'll have something like the jar of hot chocolate because, again, it's really got next to nothing in it. It's neither here nor there, but it's enough to make me feel like I've had something. Or I'd be sitting there drinking water, all the things that are not sexy, like all the things that people don't want to hear, because no one wants to get told to go sit and pick at veggies at 10 o'clock at night. But the reality is if you are bored and you know it's purely because you are not hungry, get up and go brush your teeth, go have a drink of water, go read a book, go hop in bed, get out of the kitchen. Yep.
You're not going to achieve anything in that pantry, unfortunately.
No.
And it's just the reality of it as well, and that you have to find ways. I mean, I found that I have to find ways to, enjoy it and ways to treat myself, like the ice cream on the Friday, and also my smoothies. Like, I'd have my NutriBullet, and I'd have berries, mango, banana, oats, protein, all that in the smoothie, and it's absolutely beautiful. These smoothies, and they're nice and thick. You put ice in them. That's another one.
Yes.
Put ice cubes in them, and then it makes it nice and thick. And that's another treat at night time that I can do, or before or after training.
Yep.
If I actually didn't have the rice lots of days, and the banana honey and rice was absolute. So you just 200 grams of rice, honey and banana, and you introduced me to that, and that's the perfect little post-training snack.
Yep.
And then sometimes I'd be like, all right, now I've got to eat my chicken and veggies, or my salmon and veggies. Yep. Okay, now I'm going to eat my smoothie. So that was all after training. So I had a lot to, it was like I had to allocate different meals at different times of the day. Otherwise, I'd have to eat it all at night time if I wanted to get through it all.
Yeah. Which is a strange concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Having those three at night time. And a lot of the time I'm like, I just can't fit the rice in. I can't do it. And I never thought that I would have that problem. But it was good that I did. But that was a way that I found that of enjoying things with the smoothie.
Yep.
My omelette in the morning. I'd go to bed fantasizing about it at night time, about the omelette that I was going to make the following morning.
Yeah.
And then on the last week, I messaged you, and I was like, "Oh, Michelle, I've measured my omelette for the first time today, and I'm meant to be having like 250 grams of eggs, and I've been having like
egg whites
and yolks. I've been having like 400 grams."
Yeah.
And I just didn't bother to measure
it's
it.
A monster omelette.
Yeah. Oh, it was huge. It was massive. And then I was like, and I'm having a whole large avocado as well. Is that like... So I had to cut that back a little bit. But it didn't actually end up affecting me that badly. But if I had have measured that, then maybe that would have, made me get slightly better results.
I was just going to say, could you really have got better than what you got though? Like,
I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel really good. I feel like I've maintained a lot of the muscle as well, rather than looking gaunt. And I feel $1 million on this fight week, which is good. I'm fighting in a few days, and I don't really reckon I could have done much better.
And that's the thing, especially for those going into fight week. How many people do you know that normally go into fight week and they're dead on their feet? They're dead on their feet at the start of the week. Like they're done, they're empty, they're grumpy. And all the rest of it. So if you can go into, that's what you want. You want to be able to go into fight week and feel amazing.
I don't have any injuries either. I feel like, is that a thing? Like nutrition and injuries having a direct relationship?
There'd be plenty of people who would say yes, that if you are, it's like everything. If you're not looking after yourself, you cannot expect optimal results when you are treating your body like it's a subpar machine. If you're doing everything well, and that includes recovery, nutrition, recovery, sleep, the balance in training, hydration, all of it all comes into play. you can't turn around very specifically and say, oh, yep, somebody snapped something because, you know, they didn't eat their broccoli. But the reality is that we know that if you put all of those things together, they all play in a very, very big way, and they're all just as important as each other to help avoid those injuries.
Another thing I want to talk to you about is this Game Changers documentary. And I wanted to just first of all get your sort of take. Have you seen it, and what did you think?
I haven't watched it. I started watching it, and I didn't end up watching it. There was so much. It literally lit up social media, didn't it? Because everybody got talking about it. So
and I've had so many people say, "Have you seen this Game Changers documentary? I'm going vegan," and all that.
Yeah. So, playing devil's advocate, listening to a lot of the guys who I follow, Lane Norton, Luke Lehman from Muscle Nerds, I think even Benny Cant, he put something on there as well. So the general consensus from the guys who are very steeped in science, their flip side, and I think Lane Norton actually did the most spectacular job on kind of talking about the whole thing. For me, because I had quite a few people who currently clients who then were like, oh my gosh, I want to go vegan. I've watched this movie and I want to go vegan. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Now, if somebody comes to me and they say they want to go vegan because it's an ethical decision, that's completely up to them. I have no problem with that, and I'll support them on it. Outside vegan being superior, no. I would say it's not superior. But what I will say is, if you think about how I taught you to eat, my biggest push is the fact of plant food first. Everything is plant food. That is the bulk of your diet, and then protein gets added to that. Quite often I'll say to people, because we're all taught to put protein down first, we're quite protein mad actually. So everybody will put their big steak down, then they'll put their big thing of mashed potato down, and then whatever's left is their peas and corn. I try and teach people to do it the other way around and put all their plant matter down first, then they add their protein on top of it, and of course their fats as well. So the reality is that everybody should be eating way more plant food, regardless of whether they want to be vegan or not. There are definitely people out there who do really, really well on a vegan diet. I'm just yet to see them. I haven't seen scores of people who, from an athletic side, have done so much better just because they're vegan or anything like that. That's about as far as my experience goes with it. Like I said, everybody should be having way more plant food anyway. Nobody eats anywhere near enough, and you will have heard me say it where I think my son at one stage eating nearly 1 kilo of veggies a day. All the people that I've got, the ones that there's a lot of fighters who I look after year round, all of them that are the easiest in terms of weight to manage, who are the healthiest, who very rarely get sick, they are all the biggest veggie eaters that I have. And their plates are half to 3/4 of it is veggies, and then their protein is just added to it. They've still got protein targets, but that's not the primary focus. The primary focus is always plant food first.
So you think that vegan is a healthy diet, but in terms of optimal physical performance, having protein in the form of meats is a necessary
even
part?
If somebody takes out meats, because I'll say that, for those who, I've got quite a few vegans, everybody's got a different line. So some will say that they're vegan, but they're technically pescatarian because they'll just eat fish as their source of protein. I've got others where they'll have predominantly plant food, but they'll have eggs and whey protein, but that's their limit. Then there's others who they'll just be vegan and they'll have things like their tofu and seitan and stuff like that. And then there's others where being vegan is nothing, as in literally just fruits, veggies and grains. So everyone's kind of got their limit as to where they draw the line or what they'll accept as the add-in for their protein sources. The ones who even still just have fish or the ones who are at least will have eggs or whey protein or that kind of stuff, they still fare 100 times better than the ones who are literally just living off fruits and vegetables and grain. So I think it's important just to determine where someone's scope of being a vegan actually is. So you can either be a pescatarian, which is the ones who obviously will have the fish. But like I said, some others that will draw the line and still have eggs and stuff. I had a girl who was a fighter, or who is a fighter, and she would still have egg whites, and I think she had tofu. She actually did really well. That was probably one of the best ones. And she was healthy. She had lots of energy. She felt really good. Totally not a problem. She was only little, just like someone who was really little. So whether it makes a difference for somebody who's got really big muscle mass versus somebody who's a little bit smaller. So as I said, the ones that I've dealt with, like who are a bit smaller, fine. But yeah, I haven't, outside of that, I can't say that it's there to increase athletic performance.
Right. And how about like the calories that you get from perhaps getting enough protein as a vegan compared to getting enough protein as a meat eater? In terms of if I think one of the parts of the documentary, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that is like, you can get just as much protein from a peanut butter sandwich as you can from, tuna or chicken or... I
think probably where the downfall and explanation is that, yep, you can, but I think it's got to do with the profile of amino acids that are actually in there. So because they'll put up and say, eat this amount of broccoli is equivalent to this amount of meat, but the profile is completely different. And that's actually where, again, a point of view can be made dogmatic. So it's like, this is the only way and this is gospel and this is 100% right. But if you actually then look at it, you can pull it apart and go, actually, that's not quite right, because the profile might be completely different. The nutrients that you get in that, you cannot get from that. So like if you look at creatine comes from red meat. You can't get that in plant food. So you can stand there and say that, yes, this has the same amount of protein as that, but the profiles are different and the nutrients are still different.
Right.
So again, perspective.
Yeah.
Everything is always got to do with perspective. Same as coconut oil. I could never believe how much fighting that there was over coconut oil, over, one camp saying still saturated fat, and you've got another camp saying, yeah, but it's good fat because it's plant fat. And you're like, well, what it actually comes down to is, again, it was the way the sentence is actually said. So if you said, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was like however many carbon chains it was to it. So they say 12 and above, or have anything below 12. Depending on how you read that sentence, either meant that it was 90% saturated or it was only 10% saturated. So it was just how you read that number, how you interpret it. So it's like everything. There's just, if somebody has an agenda, then they're always going to say their point of view is the only way to go. One of the courses I did ages ago covered 100 different dietary theories. That sentence there alone is enough to understand why people are so confused. And I was like, oh, okay. So when they first started, they would say Talk Vegan was like module 1. And then module 2 might have been paleo. And then next one was something else. And every time I finished the module, I'd be like, okay, right. So this is the way. Okay, I've got all of this and this is why they say it. And there's really good information that goes with it. Cool. Then I get to the next one and they completely undo what the first one said. And I'd be like, okay. By the time I got to the 6th module, I'm like, all of a sudden, so what they did was they said, okay, everybody who's in the room, stand up if you've done, say, let's just say high protein. So, you'll get a third of the room stood up. Everybody else sat down. No worries. All right. Out of the third of the people that stood up, how many of you did it work really well for? How did you feel really good? And half of those people put their hand up. The other half didn't. So the first half that put their hand up, you sit down. Okay, the people that it didn't work for, tell us what happened. I had brain fog. I had a sore stomach. I didn't feel good. I couldn't go to the toilet, blah, 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 blah. Didn't lose any weight yet versus the other people on the other side saying, yeah, I'll drop 10 kilos, drop 15 kilos. And it's in that moment that you start to realize, again, it's about what works for the person. You could have the same two people on the same diet, and you could restrict them that way. One, it works really well, and the other one gets really sick. So not everything is for everyone. You might have someone who works really, really well. That's what I'm saying, on a vegan diet. It might work really, really well for them, and they might feel fantastic, and good luck to them. But there's a lot of people on the other flip side who they just feel terrible. And I've had it. I've had it where people have come through and gone, yeah, I was vegan for 3 years and then I went back to meat and I've never felt better.
Yeah.
So
there's so many different contradicting.
It's, like I said, and the whole idea in the module was to kind of prove the point that the people that were standing there, they dead set convinced you that their way was the only way. And it sounded very credible too, because they gave you these examples. So it's a bit, to me, like I said, I haven't seen Game Changers, where it sounds to me like you can take someone, you can have a very dogmatic approach and say, right, this is the only way and this is the best way, and these are the people. It was
a very high budget, and, you know, there was some reputable people on there, you know, your Arnold Schwarzenegger, and there was all different kinds of famous people, and it'd be very convincing. I think it was the first time that such a high budget film has been made, with all of these different sources, you know, backing up the vegan claim. And they could definitely do the same thing about any diet if they had the resources, you know.
That's the point.
Convince everybody that this is the way to go, when at the end of the day, like we've talked about, it's I mean, natural foods, good foods, you know, plant-based, yes, it's great, but also the balance of things. It's really not rocket science, and there's so much toing and froing for people about this diet and that diet, this diet and that diet, and it's not that hard.
It's not sexy to sell someone, to say to them, just eat your veggies and blah, 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 you'll be right, because we are so convinced. It's easier to convince someone to walk into a shop and part with $100 for a fat burner than it is to be able to turn around and go.
That stuff just kills me. I saw one that someone of the Jersey Shore guys was advertising on his Instagram or something, and it was like a bullet blast, fat blasting bullet, and it was like a pill that you take, or I was come on.
Yep.
Like, people actually buy that after watching him.
But do you know how many people would have gone? How many people would have gone and bought that? Because, if he looks like that, I'll take what he takes. Therefore, I'm going to get, and I'm going to look like that. We are sold. That's what I mean. It's like you say, don't go into a supermarket hungry. We are sold everywhere we go. Everything that we do, it's set up on purpose to be that way. And unfortunately, with diets, it's if there's an agenda behind it, which is what I was saying before. If I always look for the agenda, what is someone hoping to gain from it? And from what I can understand, and again, I haven't pulled it apart myself yet, but from what Lane put together, there seems that there was a hell of a lot of advantage to the people that put it together and what they potentially stood to gain from it. So again, there was an agenda. It wasn't about this is just the healthiest thing that everybody can do. There was way more to be gained out of it from that. At the end of the day, they might have had, a couple of really credible people who stood up and went, felt fantastic. I think in Lane's thing, he talks about what they didn't do was actually follow up with those people and how many of them, so going back to what you asked about nutrition before any injuries, how many of them started actually getting severely injured post that, and that some of the people that they may use, they failed to mention their whole career has been built on protein and probably a few other things that went with it. Now that they turn vegan, you can't say after 50 years of being one way that their body it's due to them now being vegan, because it wasn't. It was built on everything else first. and then they change their lifestyle. Sure. I think as we get older, I know for myself as I get older, I'm probably less inclined to want to eat a lot of meat anyway. I'm quite happy to eat more fish and my veggies and everything else. And I know a lot of people as you get older who are the same. I think, I don't know, we just get sick of it or whatever. But
it's a young man's game, eating the bulk meat.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a lifestyle choice though, you know, rather than, you know, picking at different fads, and we've talked about it a lot, but the thing that I've noticed is it is genuinely a lifestyle and a mindset, and it's something that you do have to think about a lot, think about more, just be more conscious about it. And that's what I've really improved with. And the way that it's changed my life is that I have a much greater understanding after working with you of just like it's quite simple, but you know, once you start really thinking about it, you know, it is a completely different mindset to what I had before. The one thing that does scare me though is if I wasn't able to train, if I had some sort of really bad injury, and I know that you've been through this in the past, how would that affect my dieting, and would I be able to stay in shape if I couldn't exercise?
Well, how long did you not exercise for? Because you did hurt your back.
I hurt my back during the camp after one session, and I was out for a week.
Yep.
That was the biggest setback I had in this camp.
Yeah. So there was another girl who I looked after. She had a lumbar sprain, so she couldn't train for 3.5 months. And basically through that entire time, she still walked. She was able to walk. So because obviously depending on what the injury is, let's say if it's one on the worst case where you can't move full stop, it still comes down to just being smart with your food. Again, still looking at proteins and lots of veggies, and doesn't mean someone has to starve. It might mean that they probably take out more of their calorie dense kind of foods if they wanted to maintain their weight. And outside of that, it's all the normal stuff, you know?
Yeah.
We end up making it too hard or overthinking. And the reality is, okay, worst case scenario, you might put on 1-2 kilos if you were just like dead set, can't move on bed rest at the end of the day. And it's nothing you can't get off.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. So that gives me a little bit more peace of mind if I do stop training at any point.
One of the biggest people talk about rebound. So what happens is they go into these.
Had a few of them.
Yeah. People go into these big challenges. They strip out all their calories and they go train like a madman. And then they wonder why within 3 weeks that they've stopped, that they've packed on 5 or 6 kilos. So if somebody's going to stop training, generally what I would be saying to them is, if you, like, let's say they've gone from 5 days, you won't be doing that kind of training, but you're still going to be out walking a lot, right? So you're still going to be moving with what you're doing. The biggest thing is making sure that you're still on the move wherever you can be. Everybody needs a break from training or deload from training and that kind of stuff. So I would have them, you know, walking, and same thing. Because the way your food was, there would actually be no problem with you continuing to eat the way exactly as you were. Even if you backed off the training, it really wouldn't make a hell of a lot of difference to you, because of the fact you were still going to keep moving anyway. If you were keep eating that way and you're 100% sedentary, we'd probably swap a couple of things around outside of that.
So I'm going to South America. I was just telling you, I'm going on Saturday for a few months. And that's one of the things that I'm thinking about, is how am I going to maintain this? And it's a challenge that I really want to, you know, because I will probably be drinking a lot, you know, every few days, I'd imagine.
Alcohol?
If I'm blatantly honest.
Okay, that conversation just completely changed.
But in terms of food, you know, I'm going to have to make good choices. In terms of alcohol, I'm going to have to, you know, have, you know, what's it, the gin and tonics and all that sort of stuff. If I do find myself out drinking, you know,
every couple of days, you reckon?
In the likely event that does happen. But yes, so this is a challenge that I'm gonna have to have for myself, and in terms of making good choices.
Look, I think there's also a fine line there somewhere in there. And I've said this to a few people before, especially when they've had weddings or, you know, they're going away on holidays and stuff like that. And I go, you know what? you control your food as best as you can. If you end up drinking, a bit like the eating, drinking can become very mindless very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a bit like making a deal where you might be right, okay, I'm going to have X, Y, Z, and choosing. It's the same. It's using the same attitude towards it and say, I actually am going to choose, I'm just going to have this. Because if you get into the whole mindless drinking, somewhere along the line you have to draw the line in the sand and go, well, I'm okay with the fact that I'm going to lose some of my results because the amount of calories that are in the alcohol plus everything else, plus the fact that I'm not training as much, blah, blah, blah. You have to then be able to go, you know what, I'm going to make the most of where I'm at in life. I'm enjoying this experience. I'm going to try and control it best I can, but be okay when I get up and I look in the mirror and go, okay, well, I've actually put on a bit of weight. In other words,
that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at, and and I'm going to enjoy this trip because it's might be one of the last times I ever get to go away and have like a really like good experience with my mates. And if I do lose some of the results, then so be it. But the thing that I'm really confident about is that I've got the tools now to then be able to at any point, you know, when I come back home, or even make a lot better decisions with my food over there, rather than having, you know, when I was in Canada, I remember I was just literally getting burgers and freaking chips and just everything all day. But this time I feel like I'll be more conscious about it. And then when I get home, I feel like I'll be able to snap straight back into it and you know.
I think you'll find too that because you've been eating this way, that if you actually tried to go and eat that way, you'd end up feeling quite sick.
Oh, yeah. If I do, like, I was at a wedding and I had a few like the desserts and that sort of stuff. And I just like my body wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
You know? Like I wasn't craving it. My body craves the omelet in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And like craves like the veggies and the big salads and that sort of stuff. The stuff that's going to actually sort of, you know, meet my needs rather than just like a pie or something like that.
Yeah.
It just won't cut the mustard. So it's all very complicated. And somebody who's been listening to this, and even I'm confused, you know, still. There's so many nuances to the topic. If you could sort of just give a little breakdown to somebody who perhaps might be thinking about doing something along the lines of going with a nutritionist like yourself, which is a great option. What would you say to them, and what would be a good way to sort of get started? What are some good baby steps?
I think most of the people that when I first start talking to them is they've got a reason why. Why do they want to change? And it's got to be something more than just, oh, well, my scales say that I'm 72 and I want to be 67. It's got to be something more than that. So it's being clear on where it is that you want to go. Why is it that you're, you know, are you done feeling uncomfortable in your clothes? Do you want to actually spend a summer where you're not hiding? And that goes for men and women, because I've got both. I had a conversation with a guy who said, I actually want to go to a party with my son and be able to hop in with him. Otherwise, I would normally either won't go to the party or they'll sit back because they don't want to get undressed. And that is missing out on life. So number one is always about trying to be clear about where it is that you want to go and why it is that you want to do it. Secondly, it's not about launching into the unsustainable. I have a look at what somebody's doing and have a look at their lifestyle, and then I try and work around their lifestyle and whether it's building and changing and swapping and doing all of that sort of stuff. Because I find that most people's lives are so crazy now. No one's life is simple and straightforward anymore. But they have to be able to come with a certain element of being prepared to change, being prepared to do the work. Because I always say to everybody, I'm not the quick fix girl. If you want to just drop weight instantly, I'm not the person for you, because I want to put my head down on the pillow at night time and knowing I've made your life better, not just pull a whole heap of weight off only for you to just go put it back on the minute that your destination, you've got to your destination. Be prepared to do the work and be patient. If you chase health, fat loss comes. If you're in a really, really crappy place to start with and then you're trying to pull 10 kilos off on top, you're going to get as frustrated as hell. So you have to be able to come in with open mind, patience, and be prepared to do the work, not the excuses. If you want to commit to something, then commit to it and see it through. And I think being aware that you just, sometimes it's about resorting just back to basics. I can say to somebody sometimes, I know this is like literally the easiest piece of advice in the world, but it's the one thing that I need you to go and work on. I need you to go away. And whether I could have said to someone, okay, lots of people coming in there and drinking half a litre of water, if that. My liquid gold story, but you know, water, I might say to somebody, you have to go and get 2 litres of water. It's not negotiable. Go and work on it. And they're like, oh, it's water. And then they come back to me a week later, oh my gosh, I could barely get it down. And I'm like, people roll their eyes and go, oh, it's just water. Yeah, well, if it's so easy, go do it. Right? Because what I usually get back is, oh my gosh, I was up all night peeing. I'm like, yeah, it's because you're not drinking any water. It'll settle. It'll get better. But if you want to feel better.
That's the thing that people say is like, oh no, I don't want to be up and peeing and that. And no, I just pee it just because you got to get used to it. You got to condition yourself. And I found it took about a week. And I was drinking 4 litres a day. And then by the time the week got around, my body was used to it. And it was kind of just like I was topping it up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really like, people were like, oh no, that's 4 or 5 extra kilos on the scale. And like somehow it doesn't work that way. I don't know how, but it just doesn't.
It does not work that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably the best place to start. Stop being driven by or sucked into everything is 6 weeks, going to fix my life in 6 weeks, and I'm going to be happy when, because that's probably the worst sentences you could come across with. I try and teach people to actually be a lot more comfortable with where they're at. It's a work in progress. They're not a tree. They're not stuck. Anybody can get anywhere. They've just got to do the work.
And I would say as well, find a way that you can tinker the program and work with whoever it is that you're working with. And find the things that you enjoy as well. Like for me, I've said a lot of times on this podcast what I enjoy. And you know that, and then you and I worked that out, and we had a really open and honest communication. If I was, doing certain things, I'd be like, "What do you think about that? What do you think about that?" And then you'd come back with, "Probably not the best." "Oh yeah, that's fine," or "Do it this way." And I was able to sort of manufacture my own program and what I really enjoyed, and ended up really enjoying the camp. And there wasn't a time where I felt really depleted. My energy was good. My mood has been really good. And then I posted my photos yesterday, my before and after photos, which is something I never thought I'd do, but I did it because what the hell? And yeah, it was great. And the reception I got was amazing. And I feel good. I look good. I'm ready to go with camp. And yeah, couldn't be more happy. So I'd say there is a way for people to enjoy it, even though it is hard and it is something that takes quite a bit of learning. You might have to put a few hours of study into it. But there is a way to enjoy it, and that's what I found was the best part, was that I actually really enjoyed it.
If you want it to be sustainable, then if somebody's giving you a diet that says eat chicken and broccoli, most people are going to last for about 2 weeks, and it's unnecessary. It doesn't have to be done that way, and like you said, you're a walking testament to that. And I say that even with my guys. And I say the guys in fight camp because they're usually the ones who, if you ever think that somebody's going to be on chicken and broccoli, it's always going to be them. When in actual fact, most of them, they've either got pancakes in the morning. We've said chocolate milk. Some have Magnum ice cream. Everyone's got something that's actually still built in there. You do not have to literally just live off chicken and broccoli for the rest of your life just to maintain your weight. And if somebody's telling you that, then go that way.
Absolutely. And just, I'd say come in with an open mind and just listen, because, I had my ideas of what nutrition was and what I thought was good for me, but having had an open mind, like, all right, I'm just going to trust Michelle. I can see the results how well they work with other people. Just going to trust her, eat what she says, and it's just ended up working the best. So
You've done very well.
I appreciate your help very much.
You're very welcome.
It's been great, and I hope to continue this for a very long time to come.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening.